Hey folks, Green Stuff Gav here. This week we're going to do a little bit of converting, something a bit freeform. Following the fun we had with Mort's miniature, I thought we'd make something else. This time I've recently received a whole load of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Dwarves, but I need a Lord to lead them. Now this is the Lord miniature that comes on an Oathstone, pretty stock GW mini. However, for your characters and your lords, it's always nice to do something a little bit different. So I've dug a few bits out and we're going to convert it here on camera. So let's have a look. Now the miniature for the lord itself, lovely guy, lovely detail. It's got all this nice little detail on it, so I'm pretty giving this stock. However, for armament, I'm going for just a great weapon, so no shield, so we need to remove this haft. And obviously it comes with a normal hammer, which isn't quite big enough to be a great weapon, so we'll be replacing that. And while it's got a lovely head on there, everyone else with this build will have the same head, so I'm going to be changing that as well. Now I converted a Dwarf Lord for Al House, a friend of the channel, using a 30k Space Marine helmet. So I think that would look quite cool on a Dwarf Lord. So we're going to fit that on there, give him his beard back, and then replace the hammer for one off the dwarf kit with a longer haft. So first of all, we're going to look at removing this shield handle, which using a sharp knife is easy enough. It's just trim away the handle. As you can see here, we're just going to take some slight cuts and trim the fingers back so you can't see that you should be holding something. Obviously if you really wanted, you could drill down and drill this out, but for the sake of a couple of cuts with a knife, I think that will work fine, especially when it gets painted. There. That's cool. As I said, this lovely model doesn't really need a lot of work. I am, however, just going to get a little needle file just to tidy up where we've cut, to get rid of these cut lines. Sorted. Now, there's not a lot here flash wise. Obviously I've got this army second hand. He comes with an Oathstone, but Oathstone isn't an option in 6th edition, so into the box. Excuse me. Right. Now I am going to go ahead and glue him to his base, because that gives it time to dry for when we come to do his detailing. Now, Dwarf Lords are generally quite tanky and able to hit quite hard, so he will always be in the front of the regiment, but because he can change between regiments, we're going to keep him quite centralised but slightly further forward. This will also help him stand out if he stood in the front rank. So let's next look at the head. Obviously he's got this notch here where he should be facing this way, but we're going to have him facing this way to again make him stand out a bit and give him a very sort of heroic pose. So what we're going to do, we're going to cut off this Space Marine neck because we don't need any of that. Trim it down. Very gently just smooth it down so we get a nice clean connection point. Now it's going to sit slightly proud, but that's fine because we're going to add the beard. What we're also going to do, we're going to remove these Space Marine gubbiny bits to make it look more like a helmet than a more like a traditional fantasy helmet rather than some all built technological thing. Now we could go and remove this band that runs all the way around it. However, I plan on leaving that and sculpting it to look more like a crown. For those familiar with Terry Pratchett's works, is every dwarf mine has a king. So as this guy's the general of my army, he will be the king of the army. So he needs a crown. But just by using gentle cuts, I'm going to smooth this down. And again, all this tech gubbins stuff can come off because we don't need it. And again, it makes it, part of this is identifiable 40k stuff, so by cutting carefully we can remove this detail we don't want, and then it becomes much more generic. So carefully cutting so that we leave this crown, or this circlet to be technical. And again, we're going to just tidy it up, make it look nice and neat. Then use a flat file to just smooth it out. This won't be too visible on the back of the miniature, but what we're also going to do while I look at it is, this is quite an identifiable glass piece for the eyes, so we're just going to cut them out, make it look more like an enclosed helm. So we're going to run the knife and carefully slice away the curvature to the eyeballs. So this will make it look like just a helmet with a visor rather than a eyepieces. Again, just by tidying it up. Probably won't be visible by the time we come to paint the miniature, but it's always nice when you know that the detail is there. Or not there, as the case may be. Then we're just going to take this mold line, cool, looks good. And again, that's going to sit there like that and look quite meaty. So we're going to add his beard coming back. So thinking about it, I might just put a touch of glue on this now to give it a bit of stability for when we come to cut the beard. I'm going to move it slightly further forward than we think, because that gives us more of a gap here to add the beard in. Blue tag. Need to add some green stuff here. There's a nub which normally has a back banner, but no back banners here, thank you very much. Now the posing of this ham is pretty fine, but the hammer itself is way too short. So looking at it, we're going to remove the hammerhead at this point here, because that will give us a step for the axe head. Then we're going to remove the haft here, then have a longer haft on. So let's just do this carefully with a careful little scalpel blade. So if you cut carefully, you can save bits. So one hammerhead, that go in the dwarf bits box, which I haven't got many of at the moment. And then we'll follow up. Slicing the haft off. So we are left with a dwarf arm. Now we're going to straighten up this cut. You can use a file, but a gentle knife will do the same. Now his axe head's going to go on like this once I've tidied up some flash. Then I've got this bit of an old Space Marine weapon because it's a longer haft. Looking at it, theoretically we could have left the Space Marine hand on, just taken this guy's hand off. But anyway, so we're going to just do that first. Heavier knife for that, and back in the bits box. That gives us nice detailing on the haft. So we're going to glue the haft on. Now we're going to check how long the haft needs to be. So it's going to be stood there like this. We're going to hold it, just hold it next to it to see if that's an appropriate length. I think that will work very nicely. So I did spot a bit of flashing here. We're going to just scrape off. Again, when you're doing character models, it's worth taking that little bit extra time just because they'll get such focus. And then we're gonna just clean up the edge here so that we can get a nice straight attachment point. Still using this colour forged glue, which is awfully watery, but it's going strong. See, it's awfully watery, it's gone everywhere. So what we'll do instead, we'll just put it on the end of the haft. Would have made sense to have done that first. Then when we glue it, we're just going to make sure it's nice and straight. Cool. And that's going to fit on there lovely. You might not rank up with it there, but you can always go on the corner. So we did see we had some flash on this dwarven axe. Came from the old multi-part dwarf kit. Designed for the champion, but it's got some lovely texture to it. Not too bad for mould lines. And we just need to see how it's going to fit. I think it'll fit on like that nice. The other way up might be a nicer, cleaner fit, which it is. So we're going to add a touch of glue. And just check everything looks straight. Which it does, which is good. Let's see how it ranks up, because obviously we'll glue it on after we've done all the beard work. Yeah, he's not going to rank up very well at all like that, so... I think I might take a little bit off the haft. I think so. That's why we dry fit everything. So I'm going to just take a touch off the haft. And then hopefully that'll sit, pose a little bit better. Yeah, I think that'll work there with some green stuff. But before we do that, we've got 2 horns to put on his helmet, and we need to put on his lovely dwarven beard. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to remove just a touch, just underneath where his lips are, and then cut them to fit. Use a big knife for this. Again, the head can go straight in the big box. So I'm going to use my scalpel to just tidy up where the cut was made, and then we'll see how it fits before we cut any more away. So, looking at that, I'm going to take, to be honest, I'm going to take off the little moustache parts, and I think that'll go straight on there. And then some green stuff, and obviously to tidy it up afterwards. Just cutting away any excess parts so that we can sculpt on. Do some gap filling in a bit. That's going to go straight on there, I think. It's going to fit on there nice. So. I should get that all over my fingers again. Just tidy up some of this extra glue. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take some green stuff and we're going to sculpt in these braids up under the helmet. This bit tucks under alright, so it's just filling these gaps to make it look like one coherent piece. And before we put the axe on, let's give him a couple of horns, because what's a dwarven helmet without any horns? Again, we're going to do the same. We're going to just carefully remove any flash in, mould lines. These horns came off the same Dwarf Warrior kit, the old multi-part one from the 2000s. we're going to just so I'm going to have to cut this one away a touch because it doesn't quite sit in well. Again, we can cut some things down because we can always use some green stuff to build it back up so that it looks like it hasn't just been cut away. Yeah, that'll fit a lot nicer. Now, I can actually have a set of tweezers, so I'm just going to hold this in a set like this, just to get this one on because it's a very tight fit. The reason we're doing this one first is because we can then adjust the other one easily so that we can get some symmetry going. And then we're going to take some group when we come to do the sculpting, sculpt a crown on here so it looks like the crown is held up by the horns. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to just check these are straight. Look a bit chaos, to be honest. Cool. And we're going to add the axe, and then we're going to let them dry and then do some green stuff in. We're going to cheat a little bit, put some glue to attach it to the base because there isn't a great amount of attachment points on the figure itself. So just going to move this into a cool place. Let that dry a moment. And that is what our Dwarf King's going to be, or Dwarf Lord's going to look like. Again, we've got to do some green stuff in here, some gap filling there, and up here. But I think that is a very suitable Dwarf Lord. Right, I'm going to let all that glue dry, and then we'll come back for some green stuffing. Okay, here we go. So we've got a bit of green stuff there, and we got our dwarf who needs some work. So we're going to be sculpting the beard and then just gap filling on the rest. So let's start with the simple things. Gap filling is really straightforward. Is all we're going to do is take a small bit of green stuff, plonk it where the hole is, and then smooth it in. So I've got too much green stuff, which is better because we can squish it in and cut it away. What we'll do is just squish it nice and in, smooth the joins, and by the time it's painted no one will know it was there. Cool. And we're going to do the same here. I don't know if you can see this gap here. Now the different part for this is we're going to use a sausage of green stuff. press it in. Now for this, we're not going to smooth out the join, we're actually going to put slightly less in so the join is still visible, because that's where your armor plates are. So just tidy up all this extra. Easy as that. Now for the interesting part. We're gonna put some green stuff underneath the helmet. Then similar to gap filling, I'm gonna cut it to shape. Scrape all this excess away because we don't want to lose any of this nice detail. Fortunately, it's so hot here in the UK that green stuff is sticking to everything. Because the hotter green stuff gets, the more pliable it is. We don't want to lose any of this lovely detail on this dwarf, so there we are. Now, the braid, what we're going to do is going to look at the detail here and we're going to follow it. So effectively, the good thing with green stuff is all you're doing is you're just going to manipulate it till it looks right. Unlike things like clay where you can add and remove, you're just going to poke this about, then smooth on till it looks right. Yeah, that works. We'll do the same on the other side. Just cut it away. The trick here is to push it in so that it looks like it's actually compressed out into the armor, or underneath the armor rather. And following similar procedure, we're just going to duplicate the detail using our knife or our bladed sculpting tool. Easy. Slight bit of tidy up here. Again, it's part no one's going to see, but I always feel better doing it right. And then we're going to add a bit of a crown. As mentioned earlier, very Discworldian detail would be to have the army general be referred to as a king. So I like the concept. So what I'm doing here, just creating a wall effectively, building up the front of this circlet. Doesn't look too tidy at the moment. However, I'm going to take our scalpel, trim it, some nice edge. Carefully cut this away. Tidy up the joint. Right. And then what we're going to do is we're effectively going to cut some notches into it. Then we can scoop those bits out, leaving our triangles. Now, they're a bit squished at the moment, however, because the green stuff is still wet, we can then push them upright. As I said, we're going to just manipulate the green stuff till it looks right. There we have our little ground. I do believe, touch tidy up on this braid. That will do. There is our Dwarf Lord. Now what I'll do is I'll take some photos and I'll put them up alongside here, along with the one that I made for Jason for his army, and then you can see how we both have Dwarf Lords that are both individual, however would look cool alongside each other. So thanks for watching this little conversion project. I'm going to find something to do with this green stuff. And remember, have fun.